Lowe's knows you want to get even more value for the holiday. That's why as a My Lowe's Rewards member, you get new member deals on holiday decor, tools, and more. And you earn points when you shop. More points equal more rewards to help you save on holiday and more. Not a member? Join for free today at Lowe's.com/MyLowe'sRewards because Lowe's knows deals. Program subject to terms and conditions. Points are awarded on eligible purchases. See Lowe's.com/terms for full details. Subject to change. Build up to Black Friday with savings all month long at Lowe's. Get up to 50% off select major appliances, plus take an additional 10% off when you buy select major appliances. And don't wait to pick up holiday inflatables under $20. Don't wait to save, in-store or online now, because Lowe's knows deals. Valid 11/6 through 12/4. Cannot be combined with additional discounts. See Lowe's.com for details and qualifying items while supplies last.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Real Life Real Crime Daily for Wednesday, November 22nd, and I'm Jim Chapman. Woody Overton and Mike Agovino have the week off. From time to time, like the week before Thanksgiving or the week before Christmas, we're going to present a few of our most listened to stories on Real Life Real Crime Daily from earlier in the year. This way, you don't have to be without us while you're home with a few days off or while you're cooking up those holiday meals. We hope you enjoy today's Best of the Beginning episode, in which we replay some of the best, most talked about news stories from when we first launched Real Life Real Crime Daily. In our first story, we're going to tell you about a first grade student in Norfolk, Virginia, who brings a gun to school and shoots his teacher. This story is the first of multiple stories we would do on this case. We would find out shortly after this episode released that the gun did come from the child's home, and most recently, we learned that the mother was convicted on multiple charges. The teacher will recover from her wound and file suit against the school district. Here's what that story sounded like back on January 11th of this year.
Today's lead story, an unbelievable story, but one that hasn't gotten that much coverage across the country, so I think you may be hearing this for the first time. A 6-year-old, a first grade 6-year-old in Norfolk, Virginia, walked into school with a pistol and shot his teacher earlier this week.
And
the average 6-year-old weighs about 45 pounds. Woody, what does the average pistol weigh?
2.5, 3 pounds, easy. A small one.
I don't know how he kept his pants up walking. I mean, this is an unbelievable story. I looked, in the youngest convicted murder I could find on record the teacher did not die, so this is not a murder, but was 13.
Whoo! Hey y'all, you hear that? That's a sound I love. It's another sale for Real Life Real Crime on Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform that's revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Whether you're selling homemade candles or personalized artwork, or like me, Real Life Real Crime swag, Shopify simplifies selling online and in person so you can focus on successfully growing your business. Shopify covers every sales channel from in-person POS systems to all-in-one e-commerce platforms. It even lets you sell on social media marketplaces like Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Shopify is packed with industry-leading tools ready to ignite your growth. Shopify gives you total control over your business and brand without you having to learn any new skills in design or code. Look, y'all, when I started Real Life Real Crime, it was just an old cop telling the stories, and I had no idea that my fans, that I call lifers, would want merchandise or swag, and I was ignorant to anything having to do with e-commerce and the transactions that involved. Thank goodness I found Shopify, who took over and helped my business explode in ways I couldn't have dreamed of.
Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/RLRC, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/RLRC now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/RLRC.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, Christmas. And what better way to get into the holiday spirit than with a Minky Couture blanket? Whether you're gathered around the tree with loved ones, roasting marshmallows by the fire, or just looking for a cozy way to stay warm on a chilly night, Minky blankets are the perfect addition to your Christmas festivities. With a wide range of festive designs and colors, you can find the perfect blanket to match your holiday decor or gift to your loved ones. So this Christmas, make your holiday even cozier with a Minky Couture blanket. Head to minkycouture.com now and find your perfect blanket, just in time for the holiday. Happy holidays from Minky Couture.
years old. I'm 6 years old.
They won't even charge them. And in state of Louisiana, they won't charge you with a crime if you're under 11. They'll do special circumstances, et cetera. But go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The issue for me with this is on many levels. All right. We don't know if he had it in his waistband or his backpack or whatever, but we don't know if he rode the bus to school or if his parents dropped him off. But how in the hell does a 6-year-old get possession of a firearm and then have the mental intent to go to school and shoot your teacher? It wasn't an accidental shooting. They said he shot her on purpose.
Right. And I think that's key to this story is that it was not an accidental shooting. This was not a situation where a 6-year-old went to school with a gun and he pulled it out to show his friend and the gun went off. Not only is it a major issue that the 6-year-old had a gun to start with, but that he had the mental capacity to deal with his issue by shooting the teacher. It is unlike anything I've ever seen. I don't ever recall a time. I've seen accidental shootings with young people of that age where they've got their daddy's gun out of a nightstand and pulled it out and it went off and they shot their sister or something, all tragic. But I've never seen, at least, and I'm sure they exist, but I've never seen a situation where this happened during an altercation and the student actually pulls out a gun and shoots the teacher. What a tragedy. But my question would be, number one, you obviously hold the parents responsible for this incident. A 6-year-old, number one, can't go in a store and buy a gun. You have to be able to get it now. I would be curious to see if the parents have issued a statement as of yet on this or anything of that nature.
You better believe the parents are getting charged with something. And I absolutely hate the story. I hate it for the 6-year-old, I hate it for the teacher, but I also hate what's going to come out of left field about gun control and everything else and all that bullshit that's coming. Let me tell you something. My house is full of firearms, always has been. And I can guarantee you, I train my kids at that age and older. Every firearm is loaded. Don't ever point it at something you don't intend to kill. And you don't need a safety. Your safety is your finger, right? Because the weapon will not fire if you don't pull the trigger. But so these parents, I don't get it. I mean, I raised mine the way I raised them, and I'll raise my grandkids the same way or whatever. That I don't understand how a 6-year-old, my kids going to school, if my wife didn't hug them or do whatever, pack their lunch and pack their backpack, how in the hell does a kid get a firearm, a 6-year-old get a firearm from your shit and go kill someone? Now, I understand people say put the locks on the guns and all that. In some states, they have laws about that shit, and I get that. Mine, I did mine through education on my kids. I don't know how the kid gets from their home, taking a weapon, a firearm, to school and to the point of I'm killing my teacher.
And we do want to mention, because we're assuming he got this at home. Could have got it from another student.
Right.
Could have got it from his home, or it could have been something that an older brother had. That I mean, there's a lot not to this article. Right. Specific to where the gun came from. They are investigating that now. But if you assume he got this from home, it is a major problem.
Yeah, you know what? I shouldn't assume that, but I'm also not ignorant enough to think that he went on the corner and popped out $400 and got a pistol after he got off the school bus or his parents dropped him off at the curb at the elementary school.
Well, and one of the first questions that police chief answered, or one of the first statements the police chief made was, I want to know where the firearm came from. Yeah. Well, we all want to know that. Right. That was made by Chief Drew of the Newport News
what kind
Police
of world
Department.
We're living in when a 6-year-old shoots their teacher. And my wife was a teacher, a 5th grade teacher, retired now. I don't understand. I could understand maybe a little bit better if the kid was older, or a teenager or something. Shit, you can't even blame this on video games or whatever this time. I mean, I know we're desensitized to murder and all that stuff. It's the movies and everything now are like they were when I was a kid, but I don't understand. I cannot get my head around this one.
Well, and it starts with something that's pretty hard to understand, which is, how does a 6-year-old get into an altercation with a teacher? You're 6.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that.
Took his crayons away.
The altercation being the evidently the 6-year-old had a beef with his teacher, and he gets a gun from wherever and comes to. Isn't it like he just had the altercation that minute, and he ran out and bought a gun and came back and shot her. I think that it had to happen at least the day before or several days before, and he shows up and shoots her.
Now, Superintendent George Parker, not surprising to me, came out and called for better gun safety measures. Yeah, I mean, so, let me ask you, Woody, what are your thoughts on this? Is gun safety part of the problem in this case?
I would say absolutely yes, but not for the reasons this guy's saying it. And I believe that training in harping it like I did in my kids, every weapon. Yeah, I used to say it's always the unloaded weapons that kill on these accidental shootings and stuff. Like, I didn't know it was loaded. I thought it wasn't loaded. But train them up, train them young or whatever. But you know what? A lot keeps an honest man honest. And if you take away the guns, look in China and everywhere else, they'll kill you with a knife if they really want to kill you. I mean, this kid, if he had the red ass about so much at 6 years old that he was going to kill his teacher. If he couldn't have got a firearm, he might have tried to stab her. I mean,
yeah, and certainly gun safety measures from the aspect of if you own firearms, you keep them locked up or you keep them, put trigger guards on them or whatever. It would certainly help keep a 6-year-old from grabbing it and taking it to school if that's indeed what happened. But, you mentioned something earlier in this conversation, and that was the education of guns. And I'll give you a situation of how I grew up and how I also have guns, and I've pulled those guns out and showed them to my kids and said, hey, look, this is a gun. If you're ever curious and you want to see this gun, tell me. And I'll pull it out and I'll show it to you. And I'll explain to you how it works and all those sort of things. But don't ever go looking for this gun when I'm not home. Yeah. And I have them have them locked up except for at night when I'm asleep and then they're in an undisclosed location. But I think education is very important to our children. I think some people hesitate to pull a gun out and discuss what it is with their kids, even when they own them, because it's kind of a taboo thing to do. They're worried the kid's going to then see the gun and go want to operate it. I think it's the other way around.
Different views, opposing views. I was raised on guns. My dad never locked the firearms up. But let me go back. I taught my kids about them, and every gun's loaded or every weapon's loaded. Don't point and shoot. My kids, when they were kids, I had them. And you better believe, even my youngest son, it was just a couple months ago, I had my buddy from BRPD, who's a firearms instructor, used to be my SWAT team commander, take him around the building and teach him how to use the pistol and fire it. And guess what? The firing is a big part because it makes it for real for you when you stand there crying, you shake them because you're thinking this thing's going to go off. And I remember the first time I ever fired a shotgun, I was probably 7, 8 years old. My daddy went through the safety part with it and I shot a stump and I fell down and I cried like a little bitch, right? But you know what? It gave me a respect for firearms. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm the one on the other. I'm gonna know catch some shit about this. I have closets full of weapons on top of my gun racks that are freestanding and open, and none of my shit's locked in. Every one of them's loaded. But my kids are now all grown except for one. No, and my wife knows, and everybody that comes over, I said, don't touch them. And 6-year-old, I don't get it. So,
yeah, well, obviously
this shit's going to happen, but this shouldn't happen.
Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts to spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of LSU's Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdowns scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gift to the coolest finds for kids, to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
Hey, y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glaze, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something, all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We've got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/real life. That's GOBBLE.com/real life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had.
It's been 10 months since we first reported on the disappearance of Anna Walsh, and her body has still not been found. In this story, from back on January 20th, 2023, we explore the significant amount of circumstantial evidence that piled up indicating that Brian Walsh killed his wife and disposed of her body. Walsh is awaiting trial in Massachusetts. Here's our story from back on January 13th, 2023.
Let's move on to a story that's getting a ton of coverage, and it's probably the top trending story in the country right now, which is the disappearance. I guess we still must call it a disappearance. The disappearance of a Boston woman, Anna Walsh, and the erratic behavior, shall we say, of her husband, Brian Walsh, following her disappearance and maybe even a little bit before her disappearance. He has told people, Brian Walsh, 47, living in the suburbs of Boston, that he last saw his wife on January 1st when she was supposedly headed to Logan Airport to take a flight to Washington, D.C. She never arrived at her work location in D.C., and the investigation started at that point. Anything to interject there, guys?
First of all, I think it's important to paint a picture of her husband, Brian Walsh, who is obviously, and Woody, I'll turn to you and just ask you this question real quick. And someone goes disappearing and you and his investigator get the call. Who's the first person you look at?
The husband or the spouse or significant other.
Yeah. And I would imagine your job is to rule them out.
Well,
or
you have to start with them because you have to get any information about the missing person from them, right?
Yeah.
And that's usually when I would use my spidey senses and bullshit meter and whatever. But you got to work it.
Yeah. So Brian Walsh was not what I would call a model citizen. In 2018, he was indicted on federal charges for selling fake Andy Warhol paintings on eBay.
Nice.
And so that this all goes to his character. A little while after that, he took some paintings from a friend of his to sell on eBay, basically sold them and never gave the guy the money. I doubt they're still friends. So I think the first thing you do is you kind of dig into someone's background and try to get a good judgment on their character and who they are. And
well, not only that, they would have dug into their marriage and their financial background and everything else. They have any financial problems, and have they taken out any life insurance policies recently? Everything is just all part of the investigation.
And what has come out in the last 24 hours is that they had numerous real estate holdings. They began liquidating those holdings. So the picture is starting to really develop that they were in some kind of financial trouble. Oh. It hasn't completely crystallized the extent of which that was the case, but if you're liquidating all of your real estate holdings, something's going on.
Probably got to pay that guy back for his paintings he never gave the money for.
Exactly, and there was a lot of stress also involved in that. In 2021, Brian Walsh pled guilty in a plea deal on that artwork theft. So he had some fraud issues there and plea bargained out of that where he didn't have to be incarcerated. But now you're putting stress on your marriage. You're dealing with some criminal charges. You're selling real estate holdings, which leads me to believe that you have some financial stress going on there as well.
Well, he has to pay for the artwork. So that money had to come from somewhere.
Restitution, lawyer probably.
That's right. So in December 31st, that's when kind of this story takes place. Brian Walsh, in his statement to police, told them he and his wife hosted a dinner for New Year's Eve. They had a friend over and they all kind of hung out, watched the ball drop as we all do. And he goes to bed shortly after the friend left with his wife. Now, here's where it gets interesting. And this is, I want everybody to understand, this is Brian Walsh's statement of events, I guess you could say. They went to bed. His wife All of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, on December 31st, turns to her husband and says, "Oh, I got a work emergency."
Now January 1st.
Now January 1st. I've got a work emergency, and I need to fly to Washington for my job tomorrow morning. Okay, so they're going to bed after watching the ball drop, and right before they go to sleep, she mentions this. I find that very hard to believe. Remember the time in here. It's New Year's Eve. It's nighttime. None of this is mentioned until, whatever time in the morning, at least midnight, that she turns to him and says, "I got to go to Washington. I've got an emergency, and I got to fly out tomorrow morning," which is January 1st, one of the busiest probably travel days of the year.
Well, that would easily be refuted or confirmed by her work.
That's correct, and we get into that in just a minute. And
prisons are full of dummies.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she gets ready and kisses him bye. Tells him to go back to sleep when she wakes up the next morning, and leaves between 6 and 7 a.m. to supposedly go on this flight for her job. He leaves home about 3 p.m. and he goes to get groceries. Now, this is all in his statement because Woody, I would imagine you sit him down and you're asking, what did you do?
You want to lock him into the original statement, then you want to try to prove or disprove elements of that statement.
Yeah, so he's giving him this statement, and he says after he went grocery shopping at 3 p.m., he goes to his mom's house. He arrives there about 4, and that's about an hour drive from his home, but he leaves his cell phone. He doesn't have that with him, and he gets lost, making the trip longer than usual. So there's some unaccounted time there that the police were hounding him on, and they're like, well, where were you? Why did you not get there? It's about an hour away, but the timeline's not matching up here. And he said, well, I didn't bring my cell phone. That's key number one. Who doesn't bring their cell phone anywhere anymore? I didn't bring my cell phone, and I got lost on the way to Mama's house.
He must not go see Mama very much.
Apparently not. And so that's how he explained that away. He said he left his mom's home about 15 minutes after getting there. So it's an hour away. You get there, you spend 15 minutes. And he said then he had to go run errands for her, pick up some medicine and stuff like that from CVS and Whole Foods to get some food. And he got home about 8 p.m. that night. Now, that was January 1st. That was the day she supposedly went on her trip and the last time anybody ever saw her.
Good thing he worked in that quality visit to Mom's house. So.
He had to get some black eyed peas and cabbage.
Yeah. That's right. And, it's a key part to this story as we go along. There's no doubt about it. Okay, so January 2nd rolls around, and here's where it gets even more interesting. Anna Walsh's cell phone is pinged in the area of their home. Now, when police dug into that, come to find out, it also pinged on January 1st, but she's supposedly in Washington, right? So that was something that raised some eyebrows. Now, Brian Walsh that day goes to a Home Depot, and this is really key. He's got a surgical mask on and gloves, and we're not in the middle of COVID. Everybody keep that in mind. This is not, 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Well, they're pretty liberal up in Massachusetts. They may still be wearing masks up there.
But what about gloves? Come on. Well, it might have been cold. Okay, we'll give him that. So he gets $450, y'all, in cleaning supplies, mops, buckets, tarps, tape, $450 worth, and he pays for it with cash.
Yeah.
Who pays with cash anymore when they go to McDonald's, much less $450 of cleaning supplies? You know how many cleaning supplies it is? I don't, because I've never bought $450 worth.
I don't think I bought
but it's a lot
in my entire life.
Stocking up on tarps is important this time of year.
Yeah.
Everybody should do that. Make sure if you don't have any tarps in your house, you stock up.
Yeah. So if that old radar you got in your brain right now ain't pointing upward, this is going to make you point upward. So January 4th, Anna Walsh's workplace. Remember the workplace she was supposed to be traveling for? Well, she worked for a real estate company. They called police and they said, Anna didn't show up for work today and we're a little bit concerned. Now, obviously, if your workplace calls the police, you're someone that doesn't miss work.
Right.
That's very out of character for her. So they call the police, and the police go to the home to make what they call a well-being check. And Woody, is that a common thing that y'all would do, is these well-being checks?
Welfare checks every day. Somebody, whether it's a work or a family member from out of state that hadn't heard from somebody in however many days, and they normally talk on those days. And yeah, that's a common thing.
Yeah, they take them very serious, right?
Yeah, I mean, you never know what you're going to get. 99% of them are bullshit, but every once in a while you get that 1% where, it's on.
Yeah. So they go make a well-being check, and they talk to Brian Walsh, and everything I just told you, he kind of compiled a timeline, and they sat down, and that's what he said as to his whereabouts. So January 4th comes and goes. January 5th.
I imagine one of the questions, whoever Uniform Patrol goes to make the welfare check, right? And they would have been like, oh, this is bullshit. Call the detectives. They tell the detectives come. You say, hey, why don't you come in and let's just, obviously your wife is missing. And how come was the last time you talked to her, and blah, blah, blah. And then they built the case from there. But go ahead.
Absolutely. So, January 5th comes around, and the police, they're concerned. And so they go ahead and they announce that she's missing, and they announce that it was shortly after midnight on New Year's Day that anyone had seen her. And, of course, the last person to see her was Brian Walsh, her husband. And then January 6th, they decide they're going to launch a massive search. Now, that included canine officers, search and rescue teams, and they lived in an area that was wooded. So, it wasn't the easiest search in the world. They had to have several teams do that, and that's what they did. They searched for her. And in the meantime, this is really interesting. 6 investigators are tasked with basically watching surveillance video of everywhere that Brian Walsh said he was. And all they're doing here is, I'm sure like all of you probably have right now when we've read you this timeline, but everybody's like, this dude don't seem right. Something seems off here. It's not adding up. Well, they got the same suspicion. They watched the surveillance video, and guess what? They don't see him on any video on Whole Foods or CVS on January 1st, as he had told them. Lie number 1 busted. So what do you say something a lot, and that is, what doesn't ever change?
The truth.
The truth never changes. So he's already going to have to explain that one away, but that was enough. That was enough for them. They realized, boom, we got him dead to rights. He lied to us, and on January 8th, they arrest him and charge him with misleading a police investigation.
Right. Absolutely the correct thing to do. They gave him enough rope to hang himself. He's obviously no criminal mastermind. At some point, when you have enough that you believe it's him, you have to, in effect, arrest. And I've done it a lot of times, y'all, like Screwdriver Red. I arrested him for obstruction we had no body or anything else, but they arrest him. One of the reasons you arrest him is you figure if you put those shiny bracelets on, they might be more apt to talk and or change facets of their story that they know they've screwed up on. The other thing is when you do that, you'll get people to come out of the woodwork and tell you information about this character.
Yeah, so they arrest him. He gets arraigned in court, and as is common in every case in the world, he pleads not guilty. You never plead guilty on an arraignment, right? And, so investigators, they start looking, and they're kind of in a pickle here because they don't have a body. They don't at this time have any smoking gun evidence, but they start questioning a lot of events that Walsh said take place because her car is still at the house, but they can't find any evidence of her leaving the house with a Uber or with a rideshare company of any sort. So they get a search warrant. They search the house and they find blood and a bloody knife in the basement. Holy crap. Yeah. Why do you have a bloody knife and blood in your basement? I mean, I don't think we all need to be Woody Overtons to figure that one out, right? So the judge sets the bail at $500,000 cash, and the next hearing set for February 9th on that particular case.
Is that because the judge knows Walsh deals only in cash?
It could be. Yeah, he don't use debit cards. He swore off credit.
Yeah, for sure. Whatever the prediction is, he killed her wherever he killed her, took her to the basement, and practiced home carving, if you will. Cut her up, dismembered her, used tarps, and they'll find her somewhere. If you watch Yellowstone, they'll find her at the train station.
And let me ask you this, Woody. Let me ask you this. This is
not making light of it. I feel for her, but fuck him.
So even though all the evidence or all the timeline I just read to you, if it is not screaming this dude did it, I don't know what will. But all of that being said, how important is it from an investigator standpoint to have a body and an evidentiary standpoint?
That's a really great question. It goes back to the old joke about what was that lawyer in the wheelchair? Ironsides. Did the is doing his closing arguments or calling a witness. The body was missing of the spouse, right? And he said when he went to call his next witness, he called the victim's name, the spouse's name, whatever, Mary Jane. And I'll call the next witness Mary Jane Jackson. And everybody's like freaked out, and everybody looks at back to the door for the door open. Everybody looked except for the accused. He looked straight ahead because he knew that bitch wasn't showing up.
Yeah.
Right. But they've gotten away with it. It used to be they wouldn't prosecute without a body. Now they will.
Yeah.
But they're going to find her. They're going to find whether the seasons are going to change and people are going to get back out in the woods or whatever. He went somewhere known to him, not far away, maybe somewhere in between his mother's house, wherever. Maybe he went the other direction. It doesn't matter. Somebody's going to find her. They're going to find her remains, and they're going to tie him in. What I should have said earlier is what I want to say before I forgot was them arresting him on the obstruction or whatever they call it. At some point, you have to do that to try to get more information out of him and confront him on everything that you have. But it also becomes a public safety concern. If you truly do believe he killed his wife and you leave him out on bond, then he kills somebody else. You're responsible.
Right. And last thing I'll say on this, but we pretty much covered, up to the present time. But you mentioned maybe somewhere in between his mom's house and his house. And it's strange you mentioned that because you're absolutely right. The police were looking for a connection. They think something was strange about when he went to mama's house because he was only there 15 minutes. He claimed he ran these errands that he didn't run.
Did they ask mom, did he ever show up?
He was there for 15 minutes. But the problem was he told them he went to CVS and Whole Foods after, and he's not on any videos. So where was he?
The reason I'm asking that, and I wonder if it's childhood home, because the bad guys, when they get away with it or getting away with it, always, or if they're on the run, always 99.9% of the time return to an area that's safe to them that they know. And certainly if I'm going to dump a body and I grew up in that house and I knew, the canyon in the backyard, he's playing whatever. He dumped that body somewhere that's known to him. Well, he had time enough to think about it. If he had time enough to cut her up in the basement and wrap her in her tarps, he had time enough to think, I used to go deer hunting here and I know there's a thicket,
Yeah. And they did search a dump site, I guess, where they dump trash and stuff around his mother's house. Yeah. And they found a hacksaw blade with some blood on it and some blood in the area. Now, no body, but
they come
awfully coincidental.
They come back and it's her, no such thing as coincidence. And if they come back and it's her DNA on it, I'm sure they'll prosecute him with the murder. With a certain amount of blood is only a certain amount of blood is in your body. And, you got blood in the basement, you got blood in the woods, and both DNAs come back to be hers. He puts himself in the area, going to mom's house for cornbread and cabbage and black eyed peas, whatever, stays 15 minutes. They're going to do his ass.
Yeah, I think
picturing him on a dumbass criminal episode of Bloody Angola.
100%. And I think that the fact that he lied about that particular time and that particular day, to me, if I were an investigator, I would say, well, there's the time and the day, because that's where he lied. Yeah. And so he's lying for a reason. And the reason is he was hiding a body, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, there are a couple other circumstantial things. We talked about them liquidating assets. So they had tenants in one of the condos that they owned, and 3 days before Anna went missing, she and Brian told their tenants that they were going to sell their rental property out from under them, because these guys were living. I bet
you it was only Brian that told them that. I bet you Anna didn't know.
Well, the renter, Mike Silva, told CBS Boston that it felt like a personal betrayal after he had been led to believe they'd eventually sell the apartments to him and his fiance. So when they rented them, were under the impression they were going to be able to buy them.
Not outside the frauds.
Okay, so
he had no integrity.
So they got into a heated argument about this, and they were considered close friends prior to that. So after cooling off, this guy Silva sent Brian a text wishing him a Happy New Year. He received a reply on January 2nd. It said, "Happy New Year. Sorry for the delay. I misplaced my phone and my son just found it." There was no mention of the fact that his wife was missing. So, right. So he left out.
Sorry, I haven't been responding because my wife's missing.
Yeah, so he left out that little piece, which seems like it would be pretty important. One other thing is that Anna tried calling friends and family on the night she vanished. So she tried to reach her mother, sister, and her maid of honor who lives in Serbia around midnight on New Year's Eve, and again at 1 a.m., according to her mom. Okay, so the family members were asleep at the time. So while Ms. Walsh's friend was at a New Year's Eve party, and one of the other ones was at a New Year's Eve party and didn't hear the phone. So that's a weird time to be reachable. I guess she could be
not really.
I mean, wishing Happy New Year, but
it could also be.
I think that's what that was about.
We got turned, and he put his hands on me. Hey, I'm calling you all to say I'm leaving him, and that's motive for murder.
Could be. My personal feeling is my wife calls her mom on New Year's Eve at midnight. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
it says Happy New Year. I mean, that happens, especially your sister or something. I mean, I could see her getting ready for bed and let me see what they did tonight. Make sure they're home safe, whatever.
If they missed the phone call, she should have called them on January 1 and said Happy New Year's. But you know what? She wasn't breathing. She'd be dead.
Yeah.
So, sorry for the family. Sorry for the victims.
Yeah, very, very. And I pray that her body is found and she gets a proper burial and all of those sort of things, and the person responsible gets justice.
Yeah. It's interesting. But, I think the only reason this hasn't gotten more national attention is because of Idaho murders and other things like that. But when they find her body, you better believe.
And it's trending pretty heavy right now on Google.
And we'll bring it up to y'all. We'll keep you updated.
Massachusetts doesn't have death penalty, do they?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
There's 27 states left that do, and I don't think they're one. But you know what? It doesn't matter.
I doubt it.
Get light.
See, they could have some really cool. They wouldn't need a needle or anything. You could get so many great white sharks out there in the water over there. You could just take that guy, put a few cuts in him, and just dip him in the water cool there out toward Nantucket, and just.
I think even cooler would be taking him back to his house, take him in a basin, and let a jury of his peers cut him up with a knife and put him in a tarp. Take him to Home Depot first.
That way, that tarp doesn't go to waste either, because he spent good cash on that.
I think the tarp would be cheaper than lethal injection or the appeals on the death penalty process.
I'd imagine, and a lot quicker.
Hey, we certainly have no direct knowledge that he did it, but fuck him if he did.
Hey, ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through, premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore, because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone support and supplement. It's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC.
Shop early, save big, all month long during Black Friday build-up at Lowe's. Right now, get select pre-lit artificial Christmas trees starting at just $59.98. Don't wait to save. Shop these deals today, in-store or online, because Lowe's knows deals. Discount taken at time of purchase while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Most of you are familiar by now with the All Woody team, a designation we reserve for those few criminals that are truly in a league of their own. This episode from January 20th, 2023 marked the creation of the All Woody team with the induction of this 24-year-old maniacal meth head who brutally dismembered her sex partner in what can only be described as epic fashion. Here's what that sounded like.
We've taken a certain liking or a certain interest in a story we've been following about a woman by the name of Taylor Schabusiness up in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Urban legend.
Urban legend.
Now she will be.
Well, Schabusiness's lawyer says that she's crazy.
Well, tell about the crime. In case
we're gonna update you on the crime, but I first wanted to ask Woody. Do you remember the All Madden team they had in the NFL? It's like All Pro, but John Madden used to do it, and he would nominate his guys for all these crazy reasons. Right. So I think we need an All Woody team.
Yeah, well, Schabusiness is definitely.
I think we need an All Woody team, and I would nominate Schabusiness as the first.
If somebody comes along,
I second that.
And I mean, Kohlberger could be on there also, but Schabusiness is just different. Well, Kohlberger is horrible. It's all horrible, but I mean, you change your last name to Schabusiness. Well, and remember, Miss Schabusiness earlier last year in Green Bay, Wisconsin, committed a gruesome murder of a gentleman by the name of Shad Therian. This was not her husband. This was someone she had a relationship with out of wedlock. Sexual relationship. Yes, a sexual relationship. And Shad Therian will not be having any other sexual relationships from here on. As a result of that one, he lost his head. He lost multiple other body parts. Other body parts were played with after his death in an attempt to arouse them, and all kinds of other crazy things went on. And layman's terms, she blew him after he was dead and used sexual toys on him after he was dead. Postmortem, yeah. Hence her All Woody nomination. But just to refresh, she is charged with first-degree intentional homicide,
mutilating a corpse, and third-degree sexual assault. She was supposed to stand trial on October 24th of 2022, but in September, her lawyer argued, first, Ms. Shabiznes changed her plea. Her plea had been not guilty. She changed her plea to not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. Mental disease or defect. Any thoughts about that, fellas?
Well, I mean, I don't know what to say about it.
I'll tell you my thoughts on it. Y'all, I've seen this numerous times, this attempt to be used, insanity plea, if you will, is basically what she's saying. Now, most of the insanity pleas are totally bullshit. Like, you know, the person obviously hides the body or, lies to the cops or whatever. You know, it's one thing if you kill someone and you plan it out ahead of time. That means you're sane, okay? The business, I'm kind of on the fence by it because she left a head in a mop bucket where it could be found by the victim's mother. Then, once questioned about it, she said, "Oh, fuck, I left that." And then she goes on to confess. I left the head. You're really going to have a hard time finding the rest of the body parts. And I blew him after I killed him. Went into detail how she killed him, that she was choking him out, and then she just kept on one and on. But then she had oral sex with him postmortem. Then she used sexual toys on him postmortem. Her words, not mine. I think there's certainly a screw loose that you can't use I was high on drugs. That's not an insanity defense. If you're truly insane, you don't try to cover anything up. I think that where they're going to get her on this is she actually cut the body up and obviously put some pieces somewhere so that if she was truly insane, she would have done it and she'd have sat there naked waiting for somebody to find her because she's out of her mind. I also think she's a bit cray-cray on the stuff that she did afterwards at 24 years old. So the insanity defense or the competency hearing, first of all, they're going to have that anyway. Even if her lawyer hadn't asked for it, the prosecution would have certainly said, "Oh, this is a first-degree murder case. We need to make sure she's competent to stand trial and can assist in her defense."
Right. So based upon that change in her plea, they postponed her trial date pending testing.
Yeah, so they had a subsequent hearing where basically they wanted to determine the mental competency of Miss Shabiznes. And on its face, you may think, well, obviously she's got to be crazy. I mean, this girl cut off body parts. She was performing oral sex on a corpse, all of these sorts of things. They still do these competency tests, and it's important to note that she was high on meth during this whole thing. I mean, not defending her actions, but I doubt this was a common thing with her. Whether those drugs had a weird effect, I mean, I think is apparent, but that obviously plays against her in the mental competency hearing.
It's her choice to use the drugs.
100%.
Right.
100%. So she was found competent to stand trial by a judge, and her attorney basically did not agree with that and filed another request for a mental competency test.
Yeah, on these tests, they'll send them to whatever, like in Louisiana, it's in the East Feliciana hospital, if you will, for the criminally insane. Now, there's some people in there they're going to die there. That's their prison. But anybody that gets tested gets sent to this facility, and these shrinks, and they run numerous tests. It's not just one test. They do all kinds of evaluations, et cetera, and they come back and they give their opinion. They can either assist in their. The main worry is if they're so crazy that they can't assist in their own defense, right? And naturally they came back on business and said, yeah, but you know what? She did a lot of crazy shit, but she's not insane.
Her attorney, Mr. Jolly, they have some great last names for the Shabusiness and Jolly. Mr. Jolly basically had a quote, and I'm not going to read you the whole quote because it's boring, but he basically said upon his discussions he had with his client, he had some concerns regarding her ability to understand the proceedings and assist in her own defense. He also received some jail records, and that created some concerns for him. And her behavior in the courtroom created some concerns for him. So based upon that and the fact that she had been on suicide watch since August 31st of 2022, the concern warranted his request for another exam.
Is there a limit to the number of requests you can make?
I don't think so. I mean, you can come back and request it again if she does something else crazy, right? But in so many of these cases, when they try to use insanity plea, they're going to go in jail and strip naked on suicide watch and shit on themselves. And I've actually seen this happen, defecate and rub it all over themselves. They're going to try to act crazy as fuck because, you know, you're about to get the death penalty if they have it in this case. But they're erring on the side of caution, basically. And of course, the judge is not going to refuse it. I'm sure she's done a bunch of crazy shit in jail and everything else. But I mean, let her have the test.
And I would imagine that they have, this is judge's discretion. They don't have to approve a second one, much less a third, fourth, fifth. I don't think there's a law.
The judge is afraid if they don't do it, and it's a reasonable request because her courtroom annex and the shit she's sent into jail, then they go to trial. The judge is always looking at the appeal. She gets found guilty. They're going to appeal saying she was crazy. You didn't give me my test request, so they're going to give it to him.
But that doesn't necessarily delay the trial.
Yeah, you can't go to trial until they can make their defense. If she's too crazy to help in her defense, you got to have the test done, and then after the test done, if it comes back and says she's competent again, the thing is that you lost that time in preparing your defense. So the trial is going to be delayed. Then the next court they have, that bitch is going to be delayed too.
Well, and in this case, Judge Walsh did note that the defense could get another exam. However, she did note that it is not going to hold up the scheduled trial date. So she basically put their feet to the fire and said, you want to get another exam, that's fine. But this trial is going on this date.
Unless the second exam or their exam comes back and they say she's crazy. But you go ahead and keep preparing because this can't be a delay tactic. So I get that. But,
Now she's charged y'all with, well, you already covered that.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
the charges is serious. It's going to be on appeal. I don't know if the state has the death penalty or not. But regardless, the judge is going to grant that competency hearing because if they come back and they say she's not competent and they find her guilty at trial, then they're going to get it overturned on appeal. And you're wasting taxpayers' money, and business will do her business.
Well, there is a new trial date scheduled for March 6th,
right,
2023. And as the first nominee to the All Woody team, I'm smelling the first Real Life, Real Crime Daily road trip up to Green Bay. It's still a little cold in early March, isn't it?
Look, I'll get a T-shirt and a heartbeat.
Yeah, it's about a 17-hour drive. I'll go up there turkey hunting.
We could even bring her a shirt that says "Welcome to the All Woody team."
We need to go up there and cover this.
Well, maybe we root for another delay that takes us into springtime.
It's going to delay. I can promise you that March 6th is bullshit.
Okay. So, Lawyer Jolly, keep filing the extensions and the tests so that we can come up in the spring and maybe do a meet and greet with Shabusiness. Wouldn't that be great?
Be love.
Now, we hope you enjoyed these stories, and you can look for another best of on Friday. We'll be back with new shows starting again next week. Peace.